up? What is up? Welcome to Fuck, dude.
I didn't know you were
All right,
starting
let's
already,
do
my
it.
man.
Don't turn off the recording because we're gonna use this blooper.
Don't turn it
No,
off.
I'm just gonna
Yeah,
start again, but don't leave this one in for the
yeah.
fuck. All right, welcome to episode 6 of the Catalyst Effect podcast. I'm your boys Klaus, and as always with me is Crypto Hado and Mizzy. Bro, why you gotta laugh?
Yo, what's good, guys?
Uh,
This is
let's
our
go again. Let's go
podcast in our fucking
again.
rarest fucking form. We got Mizzy here. We got Clouds. He's fucking smoking them fucking clouds. What's up,
Bro, what?
Clouds? I'm taking over. What's up, brother? What's up?
What's up, man? I've been chilling, bro. I've been chilling, just playing some games throughout the weekend, taking care of my cat. He had a surgery recently, so you know how that is. Had to give him like a bunch of medicine and shit, but he's doing good, which is what matters. But yeah, that's been my weekend so far. Just trying to play some games, been catching up on Farlight. You know, we got to catch up to Missy, who's a fucking he's been grinding like crazy, like a fucking maniac over there. So I got to catch up to him. So I've been playing Farlight and then CS:GO 2. Those are pretty much the two games that have taken my whole like time. And getting ready for shrapnel, man. That's what's coming. I was actually just looking at the operators yesterday. I'm thinking of picking another two operators. They're a pretty good price right now, so definitely worth picking up. And they're also coming out with the extraction packs. So we got a little shopping to do for NFTs and stuff like that.
Damn, absolutely. That sounds great. I didn't know like the price was like affordable again. I was seeing it go up and up, so like maybe I gotta pick up something too. I don't know, but
Yeah, I think it's sitting right like at $100 or right below $100. So for an operator though, so that's
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
pretty good. But you can buy an expansion pack too for like way cheaper, and it's got
Yeah.
like the access key from like that drop type of thing.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you've heard, but Dead Drop for season 7, I think is what they're on right now. But for season 7, they're coming out with that new like game mode, I guess, which is like a racing game mode, and it's going to be like they're basically going to sell access keys again. So that's pretty cool. I think they called it tower keys or whatever they did last
Yeah.
time, but this time
Tower
it's going
keys.
to be more related to like that car racing thing that they have going on. But it's cool. It gets you access to the game, which is what they need. They need more players in the game, and I'm all for it, man. If you can keep it between 20 to $30, why not?
So we have some breaking news from Hillbilly Kobe. It's actually $160 the floor price. So you're a
Well,
little
for
off
the
there by.
operators, I still think that's worth it, man. In my opinion, for owning like an operator in the game, you get me. If you want to get involved with everything that comes with that, but like I said, if you don't want to spend $160 because you can't do it, then look into the extraction packs that are coming out within like the end of the month. It's going to be, I think, like
Yeah,
what,
it's gonna be
20
nineteen
bucks for
ninety
that,
nine.
and that gets you access to the game. So if you want access to the game, just get that, and simple as that. If you don't want to spend anything, just get the free version of the game.
For sure,
Like
for sure. No, I agree with that. That's a good point. I mean, I like what you said there with Dead Drop. Like I was really mad when they took away the access for that. So to see that come back is exciting because that game will get some more players, which what it desperately needs. Mizzy, let's go to you. What's going on with you, brother?
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Mizzy. Yeah,
hey,
I'm out here having a nice smoke, chilling in the hills of Albania before I go back to the States.
Yes,
yo, when is
sir.
that? When
Enjoy.
is that happening? When is that officially happening? Do you have an official
Probably at
date?
the end of November.
Oh shit! Right from the holidays. Hey,
Yeah,
you know what you should do? You should meet me in New York, bro, in November. I'm gonna be over there in November at the end of the November. We should just link up and then fly together back to
let's
the
let's do it,
spot, the
man. I'll
spot.
I'll I'll definitely see if I can because I know I have family waiting for me on the other side.
That's
But
true.
yeah, I am excited to go back to the States and see what's up over there. It's been a year of living in Europe, and there's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of interesting experiences. It's been like a really big cultural shock. I'll probably end up coming back out again at some point, but for the foreseeable future, I will be stateside. Pushing Catalyst to the next level. And this week was actually pretty chill. I did hit ace rank in Farlight, so I'm probably the shittiest ace player though in the world, to be honest with you. Uh, uh, but I just grinded the game. more than anything. I don't really think it was a matter of like extreme skill. And then we recruited the former head of anime at Netflix into Paladin, so that was pretty cool. And we actually bought into his NFT collection that he has called Irizumi, and that's like a really interesting experience because you can actually like network with him directly when you buy that NFT. And we bought it for pretty cheap. We bought it for like 0.1 ETH. It's like a sleeper in the space that no one's really looking at. And the way that it works is you gain access to this NFT character that he built, and then he helps you like create lore around it, and eventually like figure out how to monetize it and stuff. So I guess those were like the couple of highlights of my week. And outside of that, also been working on the Substack with Addis. That's really
Ooh.
cool. And finally finished those characters that we were talking about last week, which is sick. I really love how they came out. So yeah, I mean, just been working on art, doing behind the scenes stuff. Oh yeah, and then there's a tournament that we're working on over at Paladins too, which is going to be pretty crazy. So yeah, just doing all types of shit.
Busy fucking man over here doing everything. Goddamn. Me myself. Well, for starters, what's that noise?
It's like some construction
Oh
going
my
on.
bad, that's me. I gotta close my mic because there's fireworks right outside my window.
Hey guys, remember to elevate your audio game with Riverside.fm. Clear recordings for your podcast made easy. Click in the link in the description to get started now.
But make sure it's
Ooh,
fireworks and
they're
not
having like a party in
something
Albania
else.
over there, man.
Nah, it's fireworks.
Okay,
I
okay.
know the difference.
I've been seeing what's going on, and I don't want to mention it, but something going on in the world. But anyways, I am 30 days or less than 30 days away from having my birthday come through. Um,
Ooh, let's go.
yeah, 34 this year. So yeah, not happy about that, but I'm getting to the age where like I just have like zero tolerance for a lot of things. And the older I get, the more grumpier I get about that stuff. So it's not the best thing in the world, but yeah, my birthday is coming up on the 3rd of November. So yeah, that's gonna be probably another regular day. I don't think I'm gonna do anything special. Like in the past I've gone out and I've been like plastered, but like I'm kind of past that in my life. Like if I want to go out, like I want to go out and like enjoy myself, have a good time, and not be able to drive home, basically. So I'm kind of past the point where it's like, oh, I gotta be drunk in public. Like I'm too old for that shit. So um my week has been kind of been a blur. It hasn't been good. Um But I have an announcement. I'm coming back to streaming. I haven't been streaming all week,
Ooh, let's go.
and I won't say why, but let's just say the demon is out of my life, and I will be back live. Twitch.tv/CryptoHotto. Also on kick.com/CryptoHotto. We're going to dive back into some Starfield. We're going to play some CS. I've been actually grinding CS every night, playing some ranked games because I've decided to leave the Valorant world because it's
Why,
super
why don't you
cringy.
why don't you why don't you tell them why don't you tell them what you tweeted out at me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Honestly, that's
Yeah,
the
why
biggest
don't you
L I've seen in a while, bro.
yeah, talk about that for a little bit.
That is the
Well, the
Talk
thing
biggest
about
is,
L.
how are you
Mizzy,
feeling?
the thing is, Mizzy and Clouds is I'm a man of my word, right? And I'm very accountable. So if I'm wrong, I will admit it,
I haven't
right?
seen an
That's the
L
thing
that
about
big
me.
since the '90s, bro.
You say it's a L, I say it's a W because W Mans is accountable, hold himself accountable, which is very rare in this
Sounds
day and
like a whole
age.
lot of coke, bro. Sounds like a whole lot of coke.
Hey, we could talk about the fun today. You know what I'm saying? There's no accountability there. What about that? I'm accountable. All I'm saying is if I fuck up, I'm gonna let y'all know. Like my bad, I fucked up. If I'm wrong, I will admit that I'm wrong.
That's
And
respectable, respectable.
Clouds, you were right.
We love a man of valor.
CS2
Just no int.
Valorant. God damn it, Busy. Let me finish my fucking sentence, man. Let me finish my fucking sentence. No, but I gotta admit, the community it's a little racist, CS2, but I
I
will
mean,
take the racist community with the Mountain Dew vibes and the Xbox 360 party chat over the simp culture, her kind of matching names that I see all the time on Valorant. Not to mention like hearing pick me's in Valorant like moan when people get headshots and stuff.
That's
I'm over
weird.
that shit. Like
That's weird, man.
I want to play the game because it's fun and I want to be good at the game. Right. That's why I play video. I don't
What about
play video games to hear all
So
that
you know,
shit.
I have just one question for you, right? How do now that you're a I don't want to say new, right? Because you've been playing video games for a while, but now that you're a welcoming player to the CS:GO community, right? Are you going to partake in the hobby? You know, because you're not really a CS:GO player until you open up some cases. So, are you going to be opening cases? I guess is my question.
I already opened one case.
Let's go. Let's go. That's all I needed to hear. Let's go. That's how it starts.
what about the
How do
CS
we be
community's
opening
But
cases?
racist?
Oh,
oh well, I mean, I hopped into a and this was like a casual game, but I hopped into a game and I heard the N word like 1,000 times.
Oh, okay.
yeah, but I
So
don't think.
like,
Yeah, I don't think CS:GO like players give a fuck. Like
yeah,
like you have to mute the mics of everyone in the lobby if you're streaming because you never know what you're gonna hear. Type of shit.
but I
Nah, I get it.
noticed in competitive guys, it's actually not that bad. Like people are trying to win and like they play. Some people like just shoot you because they're being dicks, right? But
I think it's one of the only games that I still play where in competitive people still do like call outs. People are still like actually talking about like
yeah,
game decisions and stuff like that. So
Just
no, there's call outs for sure. And like I didn't even know how to defuse the bomb because I kept on pressing the wrong. Like everything is different. Like so in Valorant you defuse with 4. And then uh
oh
in CS2 you set the bomb or defuse with 5 and then you
oh
press E to defuse or whatever.
yeah, it's E.
And then but like when you press 5 you have to hold the left mouse key or the left mouse button. And in Valorant you just hold 4, right? So like all those like little nuances, like I'm still struggling with that, but overall the gameplay is very familiar and I think that the actual like gun on gunplay is way more precise than the other game. The other thing that I noticed too is when you're playing this game, you can't just stand still and shoot like you do in Valorant. Because like
You
you
have
in
to
Valorant,
strafe
you
a
like
lot.
move and shoot, right? This game, like I can
Yeah,
strafe a bit, and
yeah,
you
you
could
have to
actually still
strafe.
hit them. Yeah, so it's very different in that way, but it's very familiar in the sense that you have 13 rounds to win, and I think also the smokes are different too. Like smokes are like so they can't push that way because the smoke in Valorant is like very orbital. Like it's a sphere, and in that game in CS2 it's like it's like a trail of smoke, and it's very like you cannot see through that shit. You know what I mean? So it's very different in the way it is, and I think I don't even know the duration of smoke if it's more in CS2 versus Valorant. I haven't really tested that yet, but I have a feeling that the smoke in CS2 is a lot lasting longer. And
Well, I
and
think there's a lot more. It's more effective because in games like Valorant, you have abilities to worry about, right? So if like the
right,
opposing enemy has an ability that can target, like not target, but like disable your smoke or like get around your smoke, you get me? Like if I can teleport, for example, behind your smoke, then there goes that, you know. In CS:GO, you can do that. So once you throw a smoke, it's like you're blinded on that side, like you're saying. So you either have two options: you either push through the smoke or you have to rotate and find a different angle or shoot through it and hope you hit something, you know. So it's like it serves the purpose of what a smoke is for, you
at the
know.
end of the day,
yeah,
we
and
want
instead of
all
this
the smoke.
cartoony world,
We gotta get
it,
Missy into CS, man. He hasn't
yeah,
played it yet, so
instead of this world where you have all these cartoony characters and like you have people represented from different cultures, you just have everybody generic, and then like there's some people that have characters that they have. Like I don't know how you get them, but maybe you have to unlock them or buy them or whatever. But the other thing I noticed, blood. There's blood everywhere, and just a simple thing like that, it takes me back to the Xbox vibes, right? Because we play like um not CS. We played Gears of War. We played Halo. All those games were very
Yeah, those
bloody
were the
and like
glory
more
days.
mature.
Those were the glory days, the
yeah.
gory
And
days.
that's one thing that CS has always done very well, right? Like there's a reason why I mean, you know, they're claiming a new game and basically they just literally upgraded the old game into like higher resolution version of it. Which I will say a lot of the pros that seem to be unhappy with CS:GO 2. I guess I don't really play the game enough to like see what like what things are going wrong, like like I don't see any really like any big mistakes or big errors with the game. To me it feels pretty much like the first one, just more high resolution. But I have seen some players are like calling out the game for like just like simple bugs, I guess, or like them feeling not happy about like and not being like that much different, or whatever. But
It, it's a
uh,
classic thing of like, hey, I want the game to be different, and then it's different, and then they bitch like, oh, the game's different. Go back to what worked. Don't make
but
it
is it
different.
is
And
it
then
diff-
it's like, don't make it different. Make it the same.
but
Oh,
is
it's
it
the
that
same. Make
but
it
is it
different.
that
I don't
different
think I
but
could
is it
ever
that
be a
different
game dev
like
because I
No,
would just straight up be like, you know what, shut the fuck up. I'm gonna make the game that I want to make. You motherfuckers gonna be happy with it. Fuck.
for
So then I
real.
guess are we blaming Activision because that's what Activision does? They're just like, we don't give a
Okay,
fuck
but
what
they
you
but
say,
but they just be
motherfucker. Like we're
rugging
just gonna
people.
pull
They are
out this trash.
professional ruggers, bro.
But the difference with them
But
and CS,
they've actually made one of the some of the
Yeah,
best titles
this
in
is true.
FPS. Like
right,
so
right.
can we
But
say they're ruggers?
the difference with them and CS2 is that when CS2 came out, everything transferred over. There is not a new game every fucking year. Call of Duty has a new game every fucking year. So like that's a big difference.
Call of Duty, the way Call of Duty should have pivoted was that back in Black Ops 2, which in my opinion was the
Yep.
last best title that they've ever had. And not to say that games like Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, or like like there was some other titles that were pretty good, but they didn't there were some marks that were missing. Black Ops 2 was the last title that had everything that every player wanted from Call of Duty. You get me? At that point, Activision should have taken Black Ops 2 and do what CS:GO is doing. You get me? Continue to upgrade the game, continue to like make the game better and better and better by keeping, by adding more to it, right? And that should have been the last title from Call of Duty, and from that point on it should have just been named Call of Duty, and that's it. That's the only title that's coming out, and every year it's just getting upgrade and it becomes better and better. You get me? Versus just coming out with a different title by a different publisher or whatever the hell it was. You get me? At that point, in my opinion, all three publishers like Treyarch, Infinity War, and Sledgehammer should have become one team, and they should have all worked in different sectors of the game. For example, who does the best multiplayer mechanics? Treyarch. Okay, Treyarch, you're gonna focus on the multiplayer sector and the competitive sector, right? Like the league, the rank, all that stuff, right? Who does the best campaign? Infinity War. Okay, Infinity War, you're going to take care of the campaign. Who does the best BR, like Battle Royale? Sledgehammer. Okay, Sledgehammer, you take care of Warzone. You get me? And now you have three major developers working on one single title that's just getting upgraded every year to become a better game, you know? And I think more players would have been happier with that route than this shit that we have going on now, which I don't know if you guys have seen the gameplay from MW3. It's literally CSGO 2. It's like a more upgraded version of MW2. You get me? And it's like, why? I don't know, bro. It's just so weird.
Well, they're always been competing with Battlefield, and I remember like Battlefield will come out with the realism, and then they wanted to become realism as well. And then Battlefield wanted to become more arcadey, and then people are like, "Don't do that! Like that's why we have Call of Duty. Like don't be Call of Duty, be Battlefield." And so
Battlefield stopped being a competition after Bad Company 2. If you think about it, they got destroying sales every year almost. I mean, the last title maybe
but
like Battlefield 3, like like that was a good one, but after that it was like trash.
I understand, but what I'm saying is that whenever these game companies stay true to what they are, people aren't happy. And then when they make changes to who they are, they're not happy. Right? So gamers don't know what the fuck they want at the end of the day. I mean they do and they don't. They want a good experience. They don't want to feel like they got scammed, right? That's the biggest reason why they don't want NFTs in gaming in the first place. It's because they think it's a scam. But when we talk about like Battlefield, what was it, 2042?
Yeah, the
It
huge
it
disappointment, and now it
it
became
was
popular again.
Yeah, but it was a flop when it came out
Right.
because of all the bugs and all the, it
Yeah.
was a massive scale
It
battle
was
and
I
like
don't
people
too
are
know.
like,
big,
Battlefield always felt
too
really
yeah,
fast,
good
too
for me
big. You know.
in
it's too
general.
big.
Like it
And then
never hit for me.
Nah, man. You never, dude. Battlefield Bad Company 2 is probably one of the best
Yeah,
games I've
just
ever played in
never
my
did it for
entire
me.
life.
I played it,
yeah,
it
That's
just
like
didn't
a
do it for me.
fun ass game.
I I loved the story too, where the guy was like, he said something about like Cowboys football on Sunday. I was like, hell yeah, brother, hell yeah. Like these characters are relatable. The gameplay was like to not have a way out of a building and someone comes in. I just turn the other cheek, boom, shoot my what is it, like grenade launcher, boom, the wall goes away. Now I can run out the wall.
Like parachute down. Yeah, like that's just
Yeah, little
crazy.
things like that. And then when they added destruction, like of like the entire building in Battlefield 3, like that was cool. But like Bad Company 2, the
Ha-
way they did the destruction, in my opinion, was like balanced and fun.
yeah.
And it wasn't like I'm gonna take out the entire building that you're camping in. I get it, like campers suck in video games, but like that was a little too much for me.
I mean, yeah,
But
there was certain buildings that you could. I think it was very balanced, like you're saying, because there was certain buildings that you could do that. There was actually certain like game modes that you could play that you couldn't do that at all. You get me? Because you didn't have like tanks and shit like that. You know.
yeah,
Um, but I think it's all about like the community that you had at the time of the game, right? Like I said, like if you look at a game like Counter Strike has had pretty much the same core community of gamers, right? Like enjoy a particular type of game, right?
yeah,
And that's why it's remained so popular, and it hasn't had a need to change, right? Call of Duty had that up to Black Ops 2. That's what I'm saying. Like if they would have stopped there and continued to improve that same game, more of their player will be happier nowadays than they are now, you know, because nowadays it's like what you're saying, how do they have no fucking clue what they want to see out of this game, you know? So it's like it's almost like you get a recycled title, but that is a shittier version when it comes down to like mechanics and everything that works well in the game. You get me?
and
It's
I,
like,
I
why did you do that when you had a working title like Black Ops 2? Like, why
and I
couldn't you have just improved that
right.
game?
Right, and I think that's what's the problem is they keep making a new game every year. If they would just do the CS route, the League of Legends route, any games that come out that just update, right? They update, they have their battle passes. Fortnite. Why isn't there a Fortnite 2? Because there's nothing wrong with Fortnite 1. All you have to do is put out some skins, people will buy them. I know cuz I buy them. You put out season pass, you change the map a little bit, you put new stuff on it, you make more collabs. They've collabed with like fucking Marvel, Star Wars, like you name it, they've collabed with it. Beside, I think they've collabed with everything beside Nintendo at this point. So
What I
you don't
will
have to
say,
release a game
based
every year.
on
Call
the
of Duty,
greatest
stop that.
game, what was once the greatest game of all time in World of Warcraft, is the more they listened to the audience, the worse the game got. So there's something to it. Uh, People would demand changes.
Mm.
Blizzard would do it, and it sucked more and more every year.
Hey, you watching this video right now, come closer. I got a secret for you guys. When it comes to content creation, music is everything in your videos. And if you're looking for the right music to add to your video, you may be kind of overwhelmed with your options. You might be tired of getting copyright strikes on your videos because YouTube is very unfavorable to those kind of things. Well, boy, do I have the solution for you. Head on over to pro.splashmusic.com. You can generate AI music with text prompts. That's right, you can type words like, I want heavy drums and bass. Here we have samples. Remember guys, head on over to pro.splashmusic.com. Use my promo code HODOFREE to get your first month off, and happy music making with AI.
And then you'd see all the YouTube posts of the influencers and the
I don't know,
content
man.
creators being like, "Oh, they finally listened to us." And then like 6 months later, they'd be like, "I'm quitting World of Warcraft because the gameplay just isn't the same anymore." Like, okay, you fucking weirdo.
It's like, wait, you asked for
Congratulations,
this,
you played
motherfucker.
yourself.
Well, man, like I really hope that, like, this is the one thing I do have a hope with, like games like Shrapnel, since they have like this huge long term focus, that games can thrive. Like Dread Drop, Shrapnel. Yeah, I did not know there was a racing mode. By the way, like that's interesting to me. But what I like because it kind of reminds me of Compete, because Compete is a it looks like battle royale gameplay.
It
It
looks
looks
like
like
PUBG,
yeah, it looks like PUBG. But then they
but
came
it's
out
like,
with a basketball mode. They came out with a racing
yeah,
game.
they have like a Mario Kart type of mini game too, with like this. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know what happened to that game, bro. Like, I mean, obviously, like what happens to pretty much almost every Web3 game, right? Like they're like become dead in the servers type of thing. Like for the life of me, I could not get that game to work where I had like a decent lobby to play on, you know.
Well, they
But the
relied on
concept,
playtest hours.
yeah, right, exactly. And then they started doing playtest hours too, right? So like that's, you got to play on their schedule that they're on and stuff like that to be able to do that. But it kind of sucks because it was a cool concept and it played really well, like as far as like mechanics and stuff like that. But hopefully maybe they'll be able to do it. But like I said in a more recent podcast episode, to me, Shrapnel and Dead Drop, bro, they're going to lead the way when it comes to like shooter games. That's just like they've proven it time and time again. And this whole thing with Dead Drop now, that what they're doing for season 7, with the racing gameplay thing is cool because it also gives player another way to collect something that is an in-game item, right? Now the cars that you're gonna have in game, that we already saw those vehicles, right? When you logged into Dead Drop, it's in your garage, you see your whip there, you can change the colors and stuff. But now that has a purpose, if you can use that vehicle that you have and be able to customize them and do more with that, then that's pretty cool. Now what I've heard is that it's not an NFT that you can trade, and I'm not too sure on that
Ooh.
yet, but I believe it's like more like a soulbound type of thing, right? Like you
Oh
can't
god,
really
here we
trade
go
it.
with the soul bound.
That's interesting. I mean,
I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but I think that's what I heard, is that you can't trade it. You can't really trade the pass that you're buying, like the thing that you're
but
buying.
let's think about this for a minute though. So we have had like horse racing and uh betting
Yep.
and all this kind of different ways to like play with our crypto, right?
Hmm.
What's to stop a market to boom out and be like, I'm gonna vote, not vote, but like bet on dead drop
Yep.
races? It's kind of creating a metaverse in a way.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be like some kind of hideout elements to dead drop where you can like have some kind of social space or whatever. So you're right. A lot of these games they come out in Web3, they kind of die early. And I think there's way too many games with not enough demand for players in general. But what I do see as well is when you put a social hub in your game, I'm thinking about Street Fighter right now.
Hmm.
Street Fighter has a 3D space where you can walk around, you can walk up to arcade units and play each other, and then it like transitions to the gameplay. And then you also have social interactions where you can do like little shoryukens, hadoukens, you can cheer, you can boo, whatever. You can also like chat. So there's like a metaverse like feature in Street Fighter, and they have tons of servers, like chingos
Yeah.
of servers, bro. And uh, within those servers, I would say like the first 20 to 30 servers are like pretty full during the day, and then the rest are all empty. And so you can like kind of claim your own server in a way. And that's what Prof did with his fighting crew. They claimed like one server, and like that's where they hang out in with their whenever they play Street Fighter. So I could see how Dead Drop, and I think Shrapnel will do this too, would have some kind of social hub where it's like you're grinding for gear, you're grinding for loot. Let's take a break and let's race, or
Yeah.
let's hang out and just walk around and
I would
talk.
I would
Listen, I like
I
the
would love to bet on car races in Dead Drop or Shrapnel, to be honest. Like, let's make Catalyst an underground fucking car race hub.
Yeah, and listen, I like the idea of having like this almost like mini games inside like the bigger game, right? Like the like where you're saying how to like, oh, we're like playing, like, we've been grinding the lobbies, now let's go take a little break and go race our cars, our vehicles or whatever. And that would be cool. And like the possibilities of doing things like betting and stuff like that, I mean, that they're endless in that form, right? Like there could be a whole esports side of things, which there's already like a scene for like Formula racing, like Formula One racing, that's like all virtually and stuff like that. Like I've seen it around everywhere in the space. I even saw it on Web3 too, where they're doing like basically it's like a whole league of Formula One racing, and you can like actually like sponsor the cars like you would in like real life and stuff like that, and then they race like virtually, like through like a video game basically, but with Dead Drop, what I was gonna say is that we also gotta remember that Dead Drop is an extraction game, right? So this is not stopping them from saying that all the items that you're going to be extracting in the games are going to be NFTs or tradable. Like they're still like I'm sure they're still planning to implement blockchain in some way into the game, with like tradable items. So I'm sure that the extractionable items that you're gonna have in game are going to be like some form of NFTs that you can trade them in a marketplace and stuff like that. But I do like the idea of having some items in the game have some type of purpose within the game itself.
I see that the vision for Dead Drop is to make demand for the NFTs before you put them out there. I think that's a really good strategy because, correct me if I'm wrong, there hasn't been any kind of NFT trading yet
Nope.
within all the skins, the weapons, the
No, it's just the
bullets.
founders. It's just the
Right,
founders pass, which is the variant.
right. So I think what they're doing is building a place for gamers to come play, and then at some point they'll have like that CS:GO side of it where you can trade those skins and stuff. And I think we're seeing like the early stages of open development. You got to understand, it's not, they haven't been working on it that long. Like a year is not that much
Yeah,
time. Same thing with Shrapnel. They've been working for maybe 2 years or a little over a year. Um, that's not a lot of time for development. I mean, development cycles in the traditional gaming world, it could be anywhere from 5 to 7 years
yeah,
time. They could almost spend a decade building out these games, like especially games like GTA, like these massive scale games that require a lot of like voice acting, dialogue, scripts for missions, um, level design. They probably have a costume designer as well, mocap if they want to make movements more lifelike. The sound guy has to implement good sound into the game and a good soundtrack in the game as well. And not to mention, like if you're using GTA as an example, they have like a radio station, right? So like they have to record all that stuff too, and then they have to market the thing. So like all that time, all that process takes a lot of time. And so we're seeing Dead Drop, Shrapnel do this kind of development cycle, and I think that over time we're going to see that this game changes a lot. Like the core gameplay is like there, right? But over time we're going to see a lot of changes, and then it's going to change even further whenever these, because I think Dead Drop wants to do UGC as well. So it's going to change even further when they open up to the community, and the community will build with them alongside. And so you have governance with the um, operators and the, what are the Dead Drop things called?
variants.
Variants. So you have governance with that, and so as
But
the development goes through, you'll have like some kind of input from the actual customers or people playing the game.
yeah, I think I mean it was a long ass time ago when I read the white paper that Dedra had put out, which was very minimal. It was probably one of the most like like simplest white paper that I've seen from a company, because they're really like not focused on that type of thing, right? But it did speak a little bit on their governance and like their economy system and what their plans for the futures are. And I think all of these games plan to do that in some way, shape, or form, right? Like they plan to integrate UGC in some way. They try to implement skins in some way, right? And what I will say is that, to me, from the trailers that I've seen from both companies, Shrapnel feels a little bit more completed in that sense for me. Like, I mean, they've been putting out trailers for like certain skins that are coming out for their game, asking like feedback, like what we would like to see as a skin and stuff like that. But for a game like Shrapnel, I have an easier time picturing what the skins are going to be like, what the guns are going to look like, right? Than I do for like a game like Dead Drop. Like I can really even begin to think of what a skin will look like for Dead Drop. So I'm definitely excited to see when that aspect gets integrated into the game, and what type of technology is it going to be, right? Like, are we going to be able to design them ourselves? Are we going to be able to put some type of like in-game marketing into our guns or like our variants? When are we going to be able to start using our variant? Because up until this point, right, we're only able to use the visor into that, like generic avatar that we have, that everybody has, with a ponytail or whatever.
Hmm.
I would like to see the variant with like a full, like, cosmetic skin, like it shows you in open seas when you have your NFTs, where some of them have like that skin suit and stuff like that, and they have like the sword behind them and stuff like that. I want to see them like that in game.
I
So
mean, it could be even simple, like where you get like a little VIP thing attachment, kind of like how you have it
I
in
think
Farlight,
that
and those people are like paying money to be
I
VIPs.
think that they
So it
really
could
oh,
be
need
you
to
like
mean
that
invest in
too.
their
card? Yeah.
IP and making
Well, a
their
card
game actually feel
Or like
or
a
like
original.
battle pass. I
a
mean, they
little.
already had like a battle
On
pass
both
already.
I
sides,
mean, like a
right? Not
name
that I'm
tag.
saying that they
Yeah.
don't. Like, I think that Shrapnel's been doing a good job, to Cloud's point. But I think in a world where every game is kind of pivoting to UGC, what makes me want to build UGC in one game over the other? So, to add to what Clouds is saying, you can kind of start seeing how you want to build your own universe within Shrapnel, right? And I think that in this era of all these UGC games, you really, really, really need
Hmm.
to invest
Let me
into finding a way to make your UGC feel different aesthetically, visually, storyline wise, character development wise, to make me want to build in your UGC over somebody else's. Because I can see a world where we get UGC fatigue, right? And then yeah, and then to add
yeah.
to the point of like
Let me
the
ask you
mini
guys
games,
a
right?
question.
I think a
Sorry,
game that a lot
go
of
ahead.
developers should look at as a reference is actually Pokemon Stadium from N64. I think I know this is completely random in comparison to like the FPS titles that we're talking about, but Pokemon Stadium did a great job at finding ways to make like these little mini games inside of the wider, like the overall game loop, that were actually pretty iconic. Like, I remember spending a lot of my time playing the mini games inside of that game, and I could have easily seen a world where
Hmm.
maybe if UGC was available in Pokemon Stadium, it would have even developed further, where the user base created different mini games that expanded into their own games to add to what Pokemon Stadium already had going for them. So if there's one game that I think got the mini games right, it was Pokemon Stadium, and a lot of teams and projects should just look at that for reference.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let
Absolutely.
me
And just to add to your point real quick, before
yeah,
you ask that question, Hado,
sure.
like, to put the UGC aspect into like mini games like that into a bigger scale, look at Halo Forge, right? People started doing that in Halo 3 with Halo Forge and creating mini games within Halo 3 that ended up being more popular in custom games and actually playing the multiplayer of the game. More people were playing custom games and playing um player made game modes than they were like multiplayer, so that's like, it's something that's been around for a while.
That's a great point. I agree that wholeheartedly. I remember those days, like it was at a life of its own, honestly, and it was very thriving, and it was very exciting to see, like when you would meet another player in game, and they had all these cool maps you never seen before because they
Yeah.
would save it to their profile. That was a really fun part for me. My question to you guys is, this is a two-parter. The first question I have is, do you guys think that metaverses are dead? And what I mean by dead is like the idea of being in a metaverse, is that kind of a far-fetched idea that is never going to happen? And let me transition that question into the second part of the question. Do you believe that if a game wants to have a metaverse within their game, should they build the metaverse first and then build the games? Or should they build the games first and then build the metaverse? Because what I'm seeing um, with Dead Drop is that they are trying to do a metaverse kind of like move with their game, but they're building the game out before they ultimately dive into the metaverse world. But to me, if you're going to add racing into your game, you're going to want someone to spectate the races. Otherwise, why is there a race? And what's the purpose of the race? It's to take away from the main gameplay. So it's a game within the game, right?
To, to answer your question, I don't think metaverses are dead. I do think they'll have a rebrand, though. Something that I hear a lot about lately is like autonomous worlds, right? And autonomous worlds is, in my opinion, kind of been this. fancy word for an all blockchain game. Like every aspect of the game is has smart contracts in it and stuff. And I can easily see that becoming the new narrative for a metaverse. And then to answer your second question, you have to build out the IP in the game. I don't believe in this idea of, hey, let's just build an open world for people to build in, because you need something to pull you there. Even Roblox had like their unique aesthetic and style that made people want to build inside of it, right? Like they had these
Mhm.
blocky characters that kind of felt super voxelized, and almost like they it almost in the beginning felt like Legos, right? So it's what are you doing that makes people want to build inside of your metaverse? I don't think the sake of building a metaverse to just be like, hey, we're metaverse, we'll live. But for example, if WoW were to announce tomorrow, hey, if Blizzard were to announce tomorrow, hey, we're building a metaverse out of the Diablo or the World of Warcraft IP or the StarCraft IP, there'd be fucking digital lines around the block like for days to want to play that, right? If I could turn around and do a game similar to, Call of Duty, but be rocking with Khadgar from WoW, that shit would be one hilarious, and two, I would want to do it. So I think it's just about fleshing out your world and then let the demand ask for it. Like let the customer base say, "Hey, we want the metaverse or the autonomous world or whatever the brand ends up being."
That's a great point. I agree with that. Like there has to be some kind of reason for you to come and build. What about you, Clouds? What do you think?
No, I agree, man. I agree. I don't think they're dead. I do think, like Missy's saying, right? Like, I think metaverses are all about attracting the right targeted audience into your metaverse, right? Like, you want to attract people that are going to want to actually build inside your metaverse, right? Like, actually make it engaging and entertaining to be on. But at the same time, you got to provide those people like some type of like engine or some type of foundation to start that, right? It's almost like Unreal Engine 5, right? Like, you go in there to build, but you have all the school resources already in there that you can utilize as a foundation, right? And that's what needs to be provided in a metaverse. Also, I agree with Missy in the point that people have made this metaverses without that focus. And then what ends up happening is that you have this empty land that is just
Right.
kind of boring and there's nothing to do other than
Yeah.
run around and like start like putting squares everywhere, and hopefully you build something that you can vision, like I don't know, I do feel like metaverses have a place and they could have huge potential. I do think they've kind of gotten like lost in the ecosystem because a lot of people have taken this approach to it where they're trying to build games within metaverses, and I think that's a cool idea. But when we think of a metaverse, we're thinking of a major scale, right? Like something that is huge, a massive piece of like of assets, right? So you got to think about having the possibilities to develop at that scalability, right? You have to be able to develop that amount of space quickly so that it doesn't become a boring spot, like I mean, I can think of some titles that I have land personally. I have land on that I don't even open anymore to play or to interact with because it's just boring and it doesn't feel like it feels like this big. And to put it into perspective, one of the spaces is bigger than GTA, like over like I think it's like over 60 times or something like that. Like the space of the world, you get me? And there's nothing to do because it hasn't been completed or it hasn't been developed or nobody's building in it. So I do think it's like a very targeted audience, and I do think they need to like pivot in some way. But I don't think they're dead. I do think they do serve a purpose and they do have a lot of utility behind it. It's just not being used correctly, in my opinion.
So maybe the solution for that problem would be to build the game out a little bit, introduce the metaverse itself so you could build on the land, and then go after the modding community.
I think that is a
That's
Because
wonderful
yeah,
idea.
that's a that's a great idea. Because those people are like they're already motivated to build, right? They want a space to build. Like
yeah,
when you think of people that played what's that one survival game that everybody plays? Um
Skyrim, Minecraft,
no, like Ashel Survival. It starts with an R. Oh man, I
uh
forget it. But whatever, like people like that are into using mods and stuff like that. Like those are the right target audience for like metaverse.
I can't think of it. trying to think of a
I,
game that starts with an R that's a survival game.
it's not coming
Ratchet and
to me.
Clank.
No, no, no. No, man. Like a bunch of streamers were playing this one, but forget it. Like it'll come to me randomly.
I think that yes, it's the modding community is something that I don't understand that why Web3 in particular doesn't embrace it more. Because when you think of blockchain and blockchain technology, it's kind of like one gigantic modding community, right? Like you build this infrastructure and then people build on top of it. It's kind of like a mod.
That's a great point.
uh,
That's a great
so to
fucking
me,
point.
it just makes complete sense for a game to be like, hey, if you want to integrate a token into your ecosystem, in my opinion, this is how you do it. You build your game, you build your IP, you build your initial infrastructure, your initial core fan base, and then you turn around and say, "Hey, we have this token. If you own 1,000 tokens, you can build and mod on top of the IP or the game or whatever it may be." And now you're attracting like an actual community of people that will want to build on top of your game because you already have that established audience and they have a core community that they can basically cater to and get feedback from and build with. And then you don't have to, as a developer, don't have to work as hard, right? So, and now the token actually has utility. People need to own a certain amount of it to build on top of it. And maybe, to keep the developers from, the modders from pumping and dumping or doing any weird stuff, maybe they have to burn a certain percentage of the token that they do buy in with in order to build. I know there's probably, like economists would say, there's flaws within that logic, but I think the overall core idea, like if you can figure out the inconveniences within it, would actually be pretty solid for building a modding community around a game.
I like that idea a lot of using the tokens to incentivize that, right? Because it actually has a purpose of you're putting some type of utility back into the game itself, right? Like more things are getting created inside that games to be interactive with, meaning more users are gonna come in and try to check it out or try to reproduce, like recreate it, right? And like you said, that there's actually some type of purpose into the token. A lot of the times we see projects come out with a token and they don't even have a marketplace yet, so they can't even, like, people can't even spend their tokens or anything, you get me? So I do think, yeah, and I'm glad you brought up shrapnel again, because that's kind of like what shrapnel's trying to do with the UGC, right? So I think it's pretty cool.
They did go after the modding community too. From Warframe. I said it
Mm.
right.
Yeah, you got it right this
Warframe.
time, yeah.
I did it. I did it. I always say Warface. Warframe. Warface was a terrible game. Anyways, yeah, that's what they're trying to do. They want to have curators reward like good maps and stuff, and they want to do that in Trap Token, maybe some USDC or whatever as well. But that's gonna boost their economy and have you know money going in, money going out, money go in, money go out, and that's liquidity. And liquidity is very important when you're creating like in my opinion, I'm kind of leaking what I think here, but I think that Shrapnel is a metaverse. It's disguised as a game with UGC, but I think that the metaverse is the UGC because you're gonna have people create worlds to just walk around in. You're gonna have people that are create worlds to play some basketball. You're gonna have people that make worlds to play football or soccer, whichever one you want to call it. You're gonna have worlds where people just hang out and watch Twitch streams or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's gonna be so many different elements to this game, and the maps that are going to be like the most played and the most liked, they're going to be curated, and there's going to be some financial incentive to be the best map. So there's going to be some competition there. And on top of that, since everything that is in the game can be minted as an NFT, you're going to have people create their own value within the game. And that's what's exciting for me. And I think Dead Drop's doing it in a different way. And so, like, to go back to the original point of how these two games will be the leaders, I agree. And that's what I was getting at. Is like, I see these two games as like building these games out into metaverses. Will they cross pollinate and do things like together? I don't think so, but I think they're going to. Competition is going to bring innovation at the end of the day, and that's why I think the more Shrapnel pushes out their stuff, the more Dead Drop will push out their stuff because they have a similar concept for the baseline of the game. But I don't think that's where the game is going to end up. I don't think that Dead Drop is just going to be an extraction shooter. Like
Definitely
it's going to be
not.
a metaverse of some sort. And then Shrapnel with the UGC, they're going to be their own little world too. And I would argue this too. Roblox is a metaverse. It's not
Oh yeah, yeah, for
Oh, it
sure.
definitely
it's not
is,
like a
in my
traditional in the
opinion. Yeah.
sense of like, this is like a social hub, but it is a social hub. There is an economy within Roblox where people make assets, they sell them, they buy them, whatever. And then there are maps that are curated and they're recommended or whatever. I don't know if there's any financial incentive behind that, but the people that build in that world, this is my suspicion, will be targeted as a demographic to be builders in Shrapnel. Because then you build in Shrapnel's world, you get a better engine to build on. You can get more fidelity visually, and you can get some kind of coin. And when people get like, oh my god, I'm making money, like way more money, right? By just making a good ass map, and I can make more like the items that I'm making, like I can make royalties off of anybody that sells the item. No brainer. Like light
Yeah.
bulb is gonna go off, bro.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, man. I think that's actually a really smart thing to think about, right? And the good thing about Shrapnel is that they're doing it the right way, like we're saying, right? Like they're actually building the fandom for their games first. Like, bro, everybody in the timeline in Twitter is excited about Shrapnel. You know, they've been waiting for it. They're waiting for December to come so that we can freaking start playing the game. You know, they're waiting for the end of October so that people can get the extraction packs. So people want to get their hands inside Shrapnel, you know? And there's a lot of like people in the web3 space in general that are really interested in just building and being developers, right? I would say there's a lot more people interested in that than there are players, right? Like people that are interested in playing games. Like I know a lot of people that want
Yeah,
to
for
just
real.
build out maps and like just build out assets and stuff like that, you know. And Trapno is going to deliver very big on that part of the game, you get me? So I'm excited for it, man. Like I said, I've been waiting for this title to drop for quite a bit of time, and just to see the whole UGC aspect of it. I know we had a call with them, and we talked a little bit about that. And you know, they're actively working on that sector of the game. And whenever it does come out, I really do think it's going to target a whole new sector of users that we haven't seen yet come to full potential into the Web3 space.
And let me tell you how that's gonna happen.
What demographic do you guys think is going to be the
Let me tell
first
you.
to
Let me tell
adopt
you.
it?
Let me tell you. They
Yeah.
recorded some live action stuff with formerly TSM Myth, right? They recorded something with that motherfucker, right? So what I see is let's get into the Web 2 guys, show off Shrapnel with a live action, Myth, right? World renowned gamer, Fortnite guy. He played in some tournament and jumped off and died. Y'all remember that? Well, now he's in our fucking Shrapnel live action thing.
Right.
That's the demographic they're going after. The 18 to 25 plus crowd
Yeah.
that plays video games.
Yeah.
That's the demographic they're
Yeah, they're
going
going to
after.
go. They're going to go for the gamers first, right? They're going to go for the
Yeah.
users first, and then the demographics of builders are just going to come in naturally, which makes a lot of sense because I don't think the whole UGC sectors and tools are completely like optimized and completed to be released. You know, so they it makes sense for them to build out their users and like their whole like community,
Mm-hmm.
so that when those tools become available and now they have an educated community on how the game works, what are the gamers playing the game want to see in the game, you get me? Because you got to think about it, if you're going to start developing maps and you're going to start developing skins in the for weapons and stuff inside the game, you got to know what the audience of the game wants to play, right? Like you want to know what the players are playing the game want to play, like what type of map they want to play, right? Like so if you don't know that, like for creating maps is going to be kind of hard, right? So I think it's smart to go for the demographics of gamers first and users first so they can get some type of data and feedback from them, and then go for the demographics of builders.
Absolutely. And that's why this extractors and holders playing soon. That's why it's so important that we get that data early because then they can. We're basically doing a case study in a way to see like what do gamers want from Shrapnel.
Yeah.
What are the most played maps that we've created us at Shrapnel? What are they doing when they're playing those maps? Are they just trying to get kills? Are they trying to get as much sigma as possible? Are they looking for rare items? Are they just exploring the map and seeing all of its wonder like they're finally in the game for the first time? Like, what are the players doing that makes them want to come back? And then they're going to have some kind of survey.
Hmm.
As they need to do that, right? They have to have a survey as to why these players played the game, what they took from it, and how can it improve, right? Stuff like that. Because there's always room for improvement.
When we look at, for example, the demographic of like Roblox,
Hmm.
Roblox is actually a really interesting demographic because if I remember correctly, it's almost like a 50-50 split between men and women, um, which is rare to see in like a gaming space, like in a dedicated like gaming demographic, right? Like we're used to seeing that in mobile, but to see it in like a metaversal kind of place similar to Roblox, I think is very interesting. And then two, their demographic is so young. I think the majority of their demographics actually under the age of 21 right now. And then to add to that even more, the most popular Roblox maps tend to be party maps. So it's like if they were to decide to focus on the Roblox demographic, as you were saying, Hado, does does shrapnel become like a party like first person shooter game like universe? You know what I mean? Like it's gonna like John Wick, like people are fucking raving in the middle of
I
the
think
Well,
it
floor,
becomes. I
and then
think it
you're like
becomes like a.
clapping fools in left and right.
I think it becomes a community of like casual users, you get me, where like I said, like Halo, man, like look at Halo Force, right? Like people that went into custom gaming Halo, they went to have fun.
Yeah,
They went into those games to have fun. They didn't give a fuck about like being the best,
yeah,
or like people that went into those game modes had already completed the game, had already like made the achievements they wanted to make. Now they're going into like, okay, what else can we make with this game that we love, that we want to continue to play for like 7 more years after it's been released? Oh wait, I can go into custom games and play like something that's called a black hole, where people are going to throw shit into a garbage disposal and I have to try to dodge it and like not get hit by it. That sounds cool, I'm gonna play that. And now it becomes a place where casual gamers can have more I guess like usage of the title that they're playing, right? Like they can have more variety of game modes, right? And they're not just stuck with like TDM domination, like the regular game modes that we're used to seeing in shooters, right? I think like if Shrapnel had a party, like let's say a party map, right? Like a party map, it would be a cool event that people would just go to, like kind of like how Fortnite has the creative mode or whatever.
yeah, and the way I see this unfolding with the reason why I bring up Roblox, by the way, is because they've mentioned it on their own Twitter Spaces. So they talk about we want that community to build here, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So I mean, Halo is a very serious game, like blood and aliens and fucking politics and shit. But they had a mode where if you shot them, their little confetti would pop out, and it'd be like,
Yeah.
"Yay!" You know what I mean? So it's just like again that level of UGC, having silly options within a serious game, right? Things like that. If you're listening, Shrapnel, to this, implement seriousness and silliness alongside the game, because if you're ultimately super serious, that works. But then you have Gears of War. But even Gears of War was kind of silly at times.
Yeah.
Like there was some goofy shit. Like whenever
Yep.
fucking Coltrane, when he was like reminiscing on his football days, and he's like, Coltrane, touchdown, let's go. Like he was fucking like hype and shit. Like even that was silly in a serious environment, right? So you need to have a little bit of balance with that. And
I
I don't
honestly
have any doubt in
even
my mind they will.
I even find the whole revive me thing like that's
all of the
stupid.
characters all of the characters
Revive
in gear
me.
all of the characters in Gears of War, even like the evil ones from the Horde and stuff like that, has some type of like emote or saying in game that made it like funny and silly. Like I remember my favorite character playing Gears of War was Dizzy, which was the guy with the cowboy hat. And that motherfucker used to
Oh,
say some
okay.
funny shit all the time, dude. So like while you're chainsawing this monster in half and guts are coming out of everywhere, like you have this character saying some funny like dad joke or something, So I think I
Yeah.
agree with with Hado. You have to find some way of like implementing the professionalism and like the seriousness of your game with some type of like entertaining like silly shit that's going to make it that much more like holy fuck, like I want to do that again.
I mean, we're gonna see.
And that's why I mentioned the John Wick thing, right? Like a party Roblox being such a party map demographic. It would be really funny to have a fuck ton of party maps that are raves, festivals and shit, and then like there's an actual like shooter kind of mechanic within it. I think it would be
Or
interesting.
you could have a Squid Game. You could have a horror game.
Yeah.
You could have a Simon Says game. I mean, there's so many. Like when you put user creativity in it, especially from the Roblox people, where creativity is limitless for these people. Like your world is your oyster, brother.
Also, we got to remember all of these things are way more well received if it comes from a user experience. You get me? Like, if I know how to create this fucking weird ass, like, rave dance, like, map on Shrapnel, where you go into the stage and you have two glow stick and you're like fucking in there raving. You get me? I'm gonna receive that more like well if I know it comes from Hado rather than it comes from like the developing team of the game. So I do think like having the experience come from a user generated standpoint is what's going to make the effect of the person receiving it like that much more better. Like they're not gonna care as much if it comes from another user rather than if it comes from like a professional developing team that's supposed to have the expectation of like a triple A game type of shit.
Absolutely, and to add to your point, when I play Beat Saber, a lot of those maps that I play in Beat Saber were made by users. They weren't made by Beat Saber. In fact, I've never purchased a Beat Saber map in my life.
I mean, bro,
I've only downloaded the maps that the other people
I'm
have made.
I'm gonna go out here and say it, and I don't know if you guys are gonna know this title, but Little Big Planet was probably one of the best games that had UGC in it, like that I can think of. Like the game, you can literally create anything you wanted within the game and create maps for other players to play on and challenges and stuff like that. And it was probably one of the most simple games that you can think of. You're like this little sucky little guy, like pop sucky little guy, and everything in the map is made out of cardboard. So like it was so simple but yes so ahead of his time, right? Because now we're thinking of like this type of things like, oh, like what if players could do this inside the game, like and I mean there's already so many titles that have been created that use UGC well, and we could just draw inspiration from.
Absolutely, I agree, and I'm man. December can't come soon enough, man. Like, fuck my birthday. Let's get December going.
Dude, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the end of the year, bro. The end of the year is going to be super exciting. And next year, 2024, is going to be a fucking wild year for Web3 gaming. I know a lot of titles have a lot of plan to release in quarter four of 2024. So, I'm excited for the new year, man. But hey, let's move on a little bit forward. Missy, you put out this post, I believe it was yesterday that you put it out, where you said
Yes, sir.
Web3 in the last 24 hours. Let me put that up real quick, but can you talk a little bit about what happened in the last 24 hours in Web3?
Man, it's been a whirlwind, bro. It's been hectic out here.
It's a
Uh,
Wild West, man. It's a Wild West, you
yeah,
know?
it's the first thing was the Pudgy Penguin fiasco with Luca Nets. So for those of
Yeah.
you who don't know who Luca Nets is, he's the founder. Well, he's not the founder, but he's the current CEO of Pudgy, and he's the guy that ended up buying Pudgy Penguins for I think it was like $2.5 million when the original founder was kind of fucking it up. And he's viewed as someone in the community that's revered. He's like the iconic, not to be rude, but like the iconic goody two shoes. You know what I mean? He's the guy that does everything right. He's the guy that isn't a degen. Well, somebody wrote a hit piece on him, and they were able to tie his wallet to like three rugs. Um,
Damn.
and
Damn.
and one of the things is he for one of the rugs. or I don't know if it's even officially a rug, but one of the projects that basically had a super hype moment and then died off. And I think they're like technically still alive through being community run. He supposedly was like saving that project from the original founder as well, very similar to Pudgy's. But it actually turns out that he got paid more than the actual original founder before he announced that he was taking the project over. So it's one of those things that it comes off as, was he behind it all along? Was there some sort of marketing deal behind the scenes and he just decided to take over the project himself? There's a lot of interesting questions. I don't blame anyone for feeling one way or the other. I understand how some Pudgy holders would say, hey, well, the past is the past. He's doing right by us. And I can understand how some people that are very objective will look at the situation and be like, I mean, all signs are pointing to him having three previous rugs, guys. Like, I don't know. It's Zagabond 2.0, basically. Uh, there's rumors that they're getting rid of the Walmart deal that Pudgy's currently has. And yeah, they're
What?
speculating that they might actually take them out of Walmart and shit. So it's pretty fucking crazy.
I was just going to say, bro, like they are so lucky that all of this came out after the Walmart news.
Yeah.
Because if this news would have come out when the floor from Pudgy was down, or like nothing was going on, they would have eaten Luca alive, probably. You get me? So they got really lucky that this came out after they announced that they have gotten that Walmart partnership and stuff like that. But if that's in trouble in some type of way, then holy shit. Yeah, that's crazy. The one rugging scenario that I was reading about with Luca was something to do with Supreme Patty, which is an influencer or whatever, and him doing some type of
Yeah, that
project with
was
like free chains or something like that, and then basically Luca owning the company that was selling the free
I
chains or something
I
like
can
that.
actually speak on this on a personal
Oh,
level because
okay.
I ran a free plus shipping business in 2017, and it's not necessarily like a terrible business model from a profitable standpoint. Is it something that I would do again for a full time living or anything like that? And I'd even do it for a full time living back then. I'll be honest, it was just a really easy way to make like a few extra $1,000 a month. And essentially, what you do is you go to a third party site like an AliExpress or something like that, and you find a cheap product that has a high perceived value that you can sell for free, but you charge $15 to $20 shipping. And people will pay it because they're just like, oh yeah, the shipping cost, and they're probably putting a little on top, but they don't really care because you always do it with jewelry usually because it's so cheap to ship. And then in my niche that I worked with, it was horoscope based. So I understood that horoscope people were very, the universe, and they're very emotionally attached to this thing that they identify with. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to pay a shit ton of fucking horoscope pages on Instagram, about $15 to $50 a shout out, to say, hey, my store has free horoscope jewelry products. They go to your store, they pay for the $15 shipping. You're drop shipping it, and you're only paying maybe $4 to ship it and pay for the item, at the most $4 or $5. So you're making like a $10 to $15 profit per product.
Yeah.
So what Luca did was is he teamed up with Supreme Patty, did the same thing but at a much higher profit margin. Right, he was selling these jewelry necklaces for $100. He was saying that they were valued at $100, and they were getting them shipped to their house for $20. So, but those necklaces were probably like $5 again. So very similar to what I was doing, but way more successful. Where he was smart enough to like go do it with an influencer, where
Right. I
someone
mean,
like me would just pay shout out
you
pages.
have
Yeah.
Supreme Patty with he has over like
hmm
2 million followers. That's a big difference.
Yeah. So, and the thing with that model and why I personally stopped doing it was because when you're paying AliExpress such a cheap rate at $4 to $5 to ship these products to customers, not all of the orders make it. It's not necessarily your fault, but it gets it's being shipped out from China 90% of the time. So they get lost in the mail. They don't make it to the customers. They take 3 months to arrive.
Yep.
So you end up with an email inbox of people that fucking hate your guts, And for me, it wasn't worth it. Like, don't get me wrong, the money in the first few months was really nice, but I didn't want to run a business like that, so I would close it down. Like, I closed it down, and I was like, all right, this isn't going to work. I don't want to run a business like this, even though the profit is amazing. So I could see something where maybe Luca did that and didn't expect it to be so bad on the shipping department, and he just decided to kind of move on from it, right? Because that's what it looks like he did with Supreme Patty. I don't know how much money they made. I don't know what their volume was, but I know there was a lot of people that were pissed off that they didn't get their chains. And since he was the sole owner of the company, you could look it up and find him. It wasn't a good look to do that and then have three Web3 rugs under your belt, um,
Yeah, that
or
sounds yeah.
not necessarily his rugs, but him being tied to them. A lot of this information is still like rumors or people making assumptions. There's a few different things flying around where maybe he was hired to work for these companies and he didn't know they were going to be rugged. I find that kind of unlikely personally, but you just never know.
I don't know,
Bro,
man. To
like,
me, it's like you have three rugs attached to you, and you have a current ongoing Web3 community project. Um, I don't know. I guess we'll wait for more information to come out on this. The one thing I will say about Pudgy Penguin is that they've been super smart to use their IP and turn it into physical products. But aside from that, I'm not really involved in their community too much to know the ins and out of like how things are going over there. But all I can say is like if I do think if the floor price were down for their community, the whole thing would have been received in a completely different light.
bro, all I'm saying is the one time I ordered something from China, I was waiting on my fucking Valorant replica butterfly knife, the RTX one. Still haven't got it. And then one time I
Exactly.
ordered a hat for Astro World, Travis Scott. That hat made it to me like in a month, and I was surprised. I was shocked because I bought it off of Instagram, but it was like a Chinese website. So like I don't trust that shit. And another thing I'll say is that pudgy IRL thing gonna be worth a lot? Like, should I go run to Walmart and get one?
I mean, I don't know if they end up taking it down, it becomes lore, right? And that's the thing
Yeah,
with all this. We saw it with Azuki, and there's two parts to the statement I'm about to make. I'm gonna get to the Azuki one. We saw it with Azuki and Zagabond. I mean, Zagabond even pretended to be a fucking woman for one of his rugs, right? And the Azuki community rallied behind him. They were like, it was learning stepping stones for him to be the great founder that he is, for him to be the great founder that he is today. And then you have the other side that I found very interesting. So there's a video, and obviously we're having issues with like showing video on Riverside, so I can't actually pull it up. But there's a video, it's 8 minutes long of Luca explaining how he built a drop shipping luxury store. And essentially, what he did to create a perceived value around this luxury store is he put up a bunch of like Louis Vuitton and Gucci products into the store and made it seem like he was selling these products, but they were either products he owned or products he went to buy to go make it look super legit. And then he went and got AliExpress products that he put in between, like the Louis Vuitton, the Gucci, and the Prada products on the website to make them look like they were locally owned luxury brands. So, and then he ran like a huge ad campaign to the store, put all the luxury products to show the word sold out. So the customers ended up buying the AliExpress products for like, a much higher margin because they assumed it was luxury. And during that process, he talks about that the reason people bought into the fact that it was a luxury store was because he had this Instagram page where he was paying for all these likes and comments and views. And he said, I created the perceived value that it was bigger than what it was. And then when you look at how pudgy socials are on Instagram, it makes you think like, whoa, like did they do this shit with Pudgy? Because Pudgy, if Pudgy has been a very successful Instagram page from the beginning, from the day one, it's had incredible engagement. It's had thousands, hundreds of thousands of views, comments, likes, and all that. And now I think the engagement is authentic, but when you hear him tell this story of how he created this drop shipping luxury store and how he used, fake botting engagement on Instagram to build the business, And then you look at how they did the Pudgy Instagram page. It makes you think like, did they do this shit with this too? Obviously, it worked. So I'm not doubting that it worked, but it's kind of it makes you question it a little bit.
Hmm. I mean, the worst news on this page, in my opinion, and don't get me wrong, like exploitation of $3 million is kind of fucked. And then like getting a deal like
GSU.
getting a deal removed after you did a successful IRL launch with your pudgy penguin plushies. That's kind of fucked. But GSU is the worst news on here because that's the thing that I resonate with the most.
Yep, for
And
sure.
I think a lot of people in our community did that as well. They resonated with that as well. So to see that go down, like officially, because I know we got some, rumors in the past, but like to actually get it from the horse's mouth, it just doesn't make sense to me. But I keep going back to the Microsoft thing with Aptos. Maybe they shifted gears and put money into Microsoft instead, which is very possible. But I just was there not enough people play? Like, what is it, bro? Why are you
I,
breaking up with
I'll
me?
tell you guys the context of this tweet on a personal level. So you guys know I'm working with that. I'm working on a tournament over at Paladins with Mike and some of the rest of the guys. And two of the teams that we were reaching out to were Pudgies and AVAX. And we're still probably going to end up working with the communities in some capacity. But I woke up that day and I had literally just been talking to some of the guys from the AVAX team, and they were interested in making a team for the tournament. And they still are, and we're still probably, nothing's official yet, but it's looking like it's going in a positive direction. So I'm sitting here and I went to bed the previous night kind of euphoric because we had a good meeting with another team. And I'm like, yo, AVAX is interested. Some of the Pudgy guys from their community is interested. All the pieces are falling into place. I'm feeling great. I go to bed that night. Pudgy things blows up. A couple of the guys I was talking to were like, I don't know if we could do the tournament. Like, this doesn't look too great. I wake up the next morning, Stars Arena gets rugged for 3 million. And if you know anything about Stars Arena, the entire AVAX team has basically been embracing it. So I'm like, how does this affect that? Not to be self-centered or anything, but it was one of those things that it just created a lot of uncertainty in the moment with how we were going to proceed forward with their place in the tournament. And then just when I thought my dick was already in the dirt, I look up and fucking GSU is like, oh yeah, we're paused indefinitely. So I just wanted to fucking just like restart the day and just say fuck this.
Give me the respawn, man. Give me the
Oh
respawn.
shit. Yeah, man. To
I want
finally
a new life.
get the nail in the coffin with GSU, even though they're saying it's paused, we know what that means. We're not stupid. Like,
Yeah, for sure. It's gone. Like you could put a fork in it. It's done. It's not coming back. Um, it's just a sad situation. A lot of people in our community enjoy that game. I enjoy that game. And see it go away. You know, I get it, but like, it still sucks. It's hard to move forward. Like knowing one of the games that you grinded for a long time just kind of just rugged itself to death. And more games like this will happen. It's going to happen across the board because, as I've been saying for a long time, there are way more Web3 games than people that are interested in Web3 right now. And that's the problem. Everyone's trying to build the killer app or the best product. And a lot of these people didn't even do their own research on how to make a game. But this is the one game that felt like a video game to me. And that's why it sucks because, like, out of all the games we've played since we've been started Catalyst or been at Catalyst, this is probably the one that I played the most consistently besides Magicraft in Web3.
Mm.
So it is a bummer to see that happen. So
yeah, Clouds, go ahead, give your piece, man, and then I'll kind of like jump in on the GSU some more.
I, I don't have much to say about GSU, man. I wish I had like the same connection you guys do because you guys got to grind it out way more than I did. I got to grind it out kind of like for a very short period of time before they closed out the testing window. And then I guess the saddest thing for me is that it never came back from that testing window, right? I never got to fucking play the game again, bro. So it's hard for me to give an opinion. I do think, I mean, the game was great, right? But I do think what you guys are missing most out of it is the experience
Yep.
we have within the game, right? Like having so many fucking players come together and play at the same time, seeing that many amount of users within one Web3 game, you know, I think
Oh
that's
my
what people
god,
are
yeah.
holding on to the most rather than the game itself. Because I mean, you know, it's not much different than the game that we were playing before. What was that? Other game with the cute waifus and stuff like
Oh,
that.
Stellar Fantasy.
Uh
Meiji.
no,
Yeah.
Stellar Fantasy, right? Like
Oh,
Stellar Fantasy, or like, you know, games like Big Time, which are very similar, right? Like, so I think there's gonna be other games that look like GSU, but I think the effect that GSU had and the impact that it had with the amount of users that it brought together, the amount of guilds that we saw to come play and grind it out, you know, it's very on par to like what was happening with Diablo and the hardcore mode, right? Like when everybody was playing Diablo because they were going for that hardcore mode achievement thing. I think that's what people are hanging on to when it comes to GSU. It's the impact that it had when it was here, and for it to be a test period, basically, right? Like it was like a testing phase, and the fact that it brought so many people together. I mean, we had like three communities within Catalyst just grinding into the game, you know. So I think that's like the part that we're going to miss the most. But as a game for myself, like I just didn't get to play it as much as you guys did for me to have that personal connection with it.
I
But yeah,
yeah. If I
Yeah,
could
go for it,
reminisce
man.
real quick of a moment whenever whenever the game first launched and was live, everybody was on the fucking
Yeah.
server. And so like everybody in a mass quantity went from point A to point B to point C to point D. And you just see a wave of like over 50 players probably. I think we were maxed out the server. And we were all like everyone was doing their abilities. So you just hear like just noise because it's just people shooting guns, people like screaming in anime voice. It's just hilarious and chaos. And I'm just like playing the game. I'm just like, this is chaotic as
I mean,
fuck. I love
something
this.
very similar happened with Metacore, right? Like when
Yeah.
Metacore first, like they did the second round of testing or whatever. Like there was so many of us in there that we ended up crashing the servers, right? So like, uh, it's those type of impacts that games have that we get attached
I
to, you
think
know?
I'm in the basically in the middle here, right? I can see why Clouds feels the way he does. I definitely enjoyed the GSU experience, but I was very aware at the time that it was because of the community. I didn't. Not that I'm saying the game wasn't great. It was good, but it wasn't anything that I couldn't necessarily get from maybe Genshin or something like that, right? Um, Obviously, there's
Right.
the PvP mode, which I didn't really get to explore, that Genshin is lacking. But ultimately, it was really just, to me, it was more of, this is like nostalgia. And I'm always using this concept of future nostalgia in a lot of the stuff that I do because I know what it's like to have nostalgia. So I'm always really basically appreciating the moment when I know that I'm going to be nostalgic for it in the future. And that's what Grand Saga was for me. Where it's like, that was the moment for us, in at least in Catalyst, where the founders kind of split up and we all started playing with other members within the community, right? Hado was kind of playing with Erica and some of the people that were doing the late night game grinding, like Ramen was in there. I was playing more with like the Southeast Asian crowd, right? Like I hung out with the Click team a lot. Angel, Brian, Lala. There was a few other guild members that I played with a lot as well, like Addis, linked up with Maddox a few times. Um, I'm probably forgetting a bunch of people, so don't kill me, guys. But, it was just one of those moments where I feel like this game had a really, really big impact on our guild as far as like putting us on the map. I think we had the potential before Grand Saga, but Grand Saga was the moment that Catalyst kind of like arrived, where a lot of people are like, "This is where we want to be to play," Grand Saga. Everyone was hanging out. It was the first time in the guild that we saw people that we didn't even know showing up to the server and like playing for 4 or 5 hours. That was interesting. That was weird. Because in Web3, everyone like knows each other. So to see that there was a community outside of that, it was like, okay, this is cool. Like this game is actually having this effect. And I think that's why it's so shocking to me. It's not because I thought the game was fucking mind blowing or anything. It's just that I thought the experience had been so positive that there was no doubt in my mind that it was just going to go through. So to see it basically the rug get pulled from underneath us as far as like here's a reality check. You can have a really successful playtest and the game still might not come out. Was a really big wake up call for all of us.
And that was a game that brought a lot
Yep.
of people to this server that we made for Catalyst too. So like I got to meet Yellow Panther, I got to meet Raiden, I got to meet Elisa, and you know a lot of folks that we met. Like I always interact with him on Twitter, but we never like actually like played a game or directly interacted. And the fact that they could like pull that off to have someone in Malaysia play with me in Texas and not really experience lag, or to have Kobe play from the Philippines and me in Texas, and there's no really like big delay, right? That was the big thing that to me was really cool about it, because I got to meet so many cool people that I already interacted with, but I got to actually like spend some time with them and get to like pick their brain a little bit and play a video game in Web3, and like just feeling that there was so much potential to that game and having it become like a MMO that anyone can play in the world, then you didn't have to have servers centralized somewhere, with a pretty, fairly smooth experience. That's like the biggest thing that I'll take away from it. And to see it go away, like it is really sad. So I hope they revisit this decision sometime in the future, maybe get some more funding or something. And then B, kind of find another way to get us all to connect again, because I remember that same feeling whenever Dead Drop first came out, like for the not for like the variants, but for the Tower Key people, because I got in for a Tower Key, and that's when I came across Clouds for the first time, and I had made a lot of content from that as well, because there were just so many opportunities to make content, and Grand Saga provided that as well. So that's another big blow to like content creation, and connecting all these worlds that we partake in. So
I will say another element that both those games that you're talking about, right? Both Dead Drop and Grand Saga created was the element of like it allowed like almost like an onboarding like process, right? Like I remember in Grand Saga
Yep.
we had like the whole idol and fans thing going on, right? And in Death Drop you had the founders pass and the people that had the tower keys, right? So I didn't experience it too much in Grand Saga because like I said I didn't play as much, but I do know that there was people noticing, oh, you're like an idol, like you have this ability to grow or whatever, you're like an idol, blah blah blah. That's so cool. In Death Drop it was almost the same effect, where I remember in the beginning of I think it was Snapchat 5, I think. But when we were first joined, and I had so many people in game just like stopping me and saying, "Whoa, bro, you have a visor? Are you a founder's pass? Are you a founder in the game? Blah blah blah. Like, how does that work?" And just it created like an opportunity almost to a conversation of like letting people know about the game, like this whole other sector of the game. It almost made like the onboarding into NFTs, right? Completely natural, because it was almost like them seeing like something cool that I was wearing, which was a visor, right? And I'm saying, "Whoa, how do you get that visor? Are you like a founders? Like, have you been in the game since the beginning? Blah blah blah, like all this type of stuff, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually, you can buy one for yourself too if you go to this and that, right?" And it was just it almost created like this interaction from like this two sectors of players to come naturally in the game.
absolutely.
Because like for Grand Saga, for example, like people that were idols most likely were people that were content creators, right? So for somebody that's like a random like player or like a casual player to interact with a content creator, it's just something that's cool that you don't see often in video games, right? Like how often do you run into, I don't know, let's say into Ninja in Fortnite, right? Like how often do you run into him while you're playing randomly? So I think it's something cool that Grand Saga did as well.
And then also with Dead Drop, it was the first time that I had people that weren't privy to this world that we live in, Web3, that bought the tower key and played a Web3 game, right? So, like that onboarding process, you're absolutely 100% spot on because it did bring a lot of people into the market or into the gaming market for Web3. And Grand Saga, in my opinion, could have been one of those games. Even with the feedback from
My
Mizzy,
niece and her friends, yeah.
what was it, like your sisters or yeah, yeah. Even with that, like that feedback is valuable because then you can get these people to go in and be like, okay, let's make it like more fun and less grindy, and add elements that a AAA studio would add to make people want to play the game and play it like Final Fantasy, right? Or Fantasy Star Online, or I don't know what it's called now, PSO2, or World of Warcraft. Games like that where they have like that grindy feel to it, but there's enough content there that makes it not feel as grindy.
But also to your point, Hado, when it comes to onboarding, right? Like for example, for a game like that drop, one of the things that were like kind of like saving them in that sense is the fact that one of their founders from the developing side of things, right, was a very famous streamer, right? Dr. Disrespect. And kind of like what you were talking about before with Myth and Shrapnel, right? That helps the game a ton because with the tower key perspective from Dead Drop, for example, right? A lot of the people that I met in game and just talking with the proximity chat and saying, hey, how did you hear about the game, like how did you get into it, oh, I just heard it from Dr. Respect, I'm just buying the tower key because I'm a fan of him or whatever. So people were just buying those tower keys because they were a fan of Dr. Respect. They didn't even care that the game was Web3 or that it had NFTs or like that it was even like an extraction shooter. They just wanted to play a game that Dr. Disrespect was developing, right? So I think having that into the marketing side of things for games is very important as well. And I'm not saying that games should look at influencer marketing. It's not that. It's a big difference when the person promoting the game is building the game itself, right? Like if Dr. Disrespect was just another influencer saying like, yeah, go play this game, it's going to be the next best thing, then that's completely different. He's actually creating this game, right? So his whole fan base is going to stand behind him and they're going to try out this game. It's very similar to X Defiant, for example,
Right.
who's very one of the biggest advisors in X Defiant is this player named Aches, who's a ex Call of Duty pro player, one of the best ones in the world, right? And a lot of people that are fans of him, even pro players from the Call of Duty scene, the only reason that they try X Defiant is because he was working on it. So I
Hmm.
think that validity and the like, the word to mouth coming from somebody that's been involved in video games for a long time does a lot
Yep.
for like new games coming into the scene.
To expand on
Absolutely.
that, I think that to go back to Luca Nets with using someone like Supreme Patty to basically market a necklace, I think that's the wave for the next, generation of games where you're seeing a studio get behind someone like Dr. Disrespect. And obviously Dr. Disrespect does have, like development experience to some degree, but it's similar to how in fashion we saw, influencer led brands start happening. I think we're going to see a lot of more influencer led games because they just have the trust of their community, the interest of their community. And I think the really cool thing about experiences like Dead Drop or Grand Saga is there's two sides of it. It's almost like you're living in two worlds. There's a side of it from the Web3 side where most of us that play these games or get access to these games, we all have a vested interest in the space as like working professionals, right? Whether it be content creators or people, building an organization, how we are with Catalyst. So it's one of those things where you're gaming with a bunch of like future rock stars. If this space has extreme success or any fraction of success, the people that we're gaming with, we all know are going to be like prominent figures in the future of gaming. Ourselves included, and the people inside of the guild and all that kind of stuff. So it always has like a special energy, like this special fire to me where it's like I'm playing with all these future legends. And then on the other side, you have like all the Web 2 people that couldn't give a fuck less about who any of us are. So it's also like uber humbling all at the same
True.
time.
That is facts. Those Web 2 people hate me, bro. I remember I get comments all the time. You have an NFT picture? I stole your NFT. I have it now. Ha 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 ha. Yo, really? Because when I sell that NFT, nigga, you ain't getting no fucking value. I'm getting the value, bitch.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Hado. All right, Hado. Well, listen, I think this has been a great episode. Hado, why don't you give us your closing thoughts since you're so hyped? What are your closing thoughts for this week?
I get to speak this time?
Yes, you get to speak, brother. Don't worry. You're allowed. You're allowed. You have the mic.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm kidding. No, so like my closing thoughts. This is tough. So I respect the decisions of what's happened with GSU. I understand from a business standpoint, but from a market standpoint, and like, does anybody have any negative feedback from that game besides maybe like some people that say it was too grindy? But that's the nature of an MMO. So like, that's not really a complaint. I mean, maybe you could make it a little less grindy and change up the gameplay a bit. But in my opinion, it is just a like MMOs are just grindy games to me. And so I didn't see any negative things from Ground Saga. So I just don't understand why anyone wouldn't pick up the project. Someone else that sees that the community is like really loving this product. Why not pick it
I
up?
think a common
Be the
misconception
new
with the
owner of it. Make a
GSU
fuck
thing
ton of money from it.
is that
Hold on, it's my closing
they
thought.
actually everyone's saying they ran out of money. I read that they just decided to go with a different title that isn't in Web3 because they feel it'd be more profitable. So I don't know if they'd even be willing to give it up, to be honest. Yeah, we lost this guy.
Clouds, are you okay? Why is he laughing? He's like dying over there.
Bruh. Yes.
But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but I understand what I'm saying. Like, if there's a passionate fan base, like you remember when Toonami got taken off the air and people were like, "Bring back Toonami," and then
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then it came back, right? It didn't stay forever, but it had a little bit of airtime. It ran for a bit, and so all I'm saying is that when you have a passionate fan base that is going to support the product, as long as you bring, like, if Super Smash Bros. Melee ever came to the Switch and it was like HD, I think, and didn't get fucked with at all. You said everything, all the mechanics are still there. Then they would drop those GameCubes and buy Melee again. 100% they would, and people wouldn't pirate the game. They would just buy it. So sometimes like the fans need to be heard, and so my closing thoughts is like, if there is a wealthy group out there that wants to make more wealth, and mind you, game development is not easy, so understand what you're getting yourself into, but uh please revive Ground Saga, because I think a lot of people in Web3 would love that, and find a way to market it more to Web2 people. And the last closing thought I have is, enough with the fucking playtest servers. Stop that shit. Do a beta like the regular games do. Do the fucking beta. Launch the game. Market the game before you launch it. And then let it ride or let it die. It's an entertainment business. And you got to understand, not every fucking game is going to be successful. Stop putting this like barrier of like being a little scared bitch. Just put the game out there and put your best foot forward. Stop putting these playtests out here and then not letting people have an expectation of when they're going to get to play the game again, because you're not doing anyone a favor. End of thought.
Make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments. Should they bring back GSU? Should they leave playtest servers live? Should Hado be allowed to just get on Twitter Spaces and call developers that don't do that little bitches? Let us know what you think. Let us know.
Come at
And
me.
broettes.
Hey, tell us, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. This was episode 6 of the Catalyst Effect, guys. We'll see you next Friday, like always. Peace.
Also, RIP Yuga for firing half their staff. Peace.